John, Daniel, this week in Nintendo is an incredibly special one because this week is the 52nd or the 1 year mark since the Switch 2 has launched. We've all had our hardware, obviously, since as soon as we could get our grubby mitts on them, and we've put it through its paces. It's kind of become GVG's identity to a degree. So I wanted to sit and chat with you guys, reflect on our year with our Switch 2s, what we like, what we don't like, what we ended up using maybe that we were surprised by, and what we maybe weren't so surprised by. I'm looking at you, Switch 2 webcam, that didn't work out the way maybe Nintendo hoped. First off, how are you guys feeling about the Switch 2 a year in? I'll start with you, John.
Switch 2 killed my grandma, man. I hate that thing. It's got no games, it's got no visuals, no graphics. Hate it all. Bad system.
Oh, all right. How about you, Daniel?
I have really enjoyed the Switch 2. I don't think I've missed a day since it came out without using it to some degree. The early months were very much backwards compatible focused, but there's been a game like every month, multiple games every month. Never a shortage of things to play. I've got my problems with some of the library, but I've never had a lull with Switch 2, and that's as much as you can hope for, really.
Yeah, I can't really disagree with you there. How about you, Daniel? How has your first year with Nintendo's new hardware been?
It's the first year I spent covering a entire console with the channel, from its launch, and that was a stressful time. 1 year ago, when that thing released, we were firing off on all cylinders, getting all that coverage out, and once that settled down, I started to really sit back and just observe the Switch 2 for what it is. And over the last year, I feel like it's delivered for the most part. There's been, as John has said, there's been no lulls of games throughout this whole time. When the system released, there was a lot available. There was a lot of support, whether you're looking at third parties. There was Switch 2 editions to supplement the other releases that were coming out at the time. Mario Kart World was the big one for the moments. The GameCube on NSO came out. There was something for everybody when that console launched. And I still think today we're still getting a steady stream of games that I am constantly impressed by. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth just released, and that is performing so much better than I had expected for this little console that could. And I've just been constantly impressed by it.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the time in online conversation, you just need to take the Joy-Con off and put your Switch 2 next to a PS5 and just look at what it is. The fact that it's doing Resident Evil Requiem and Star Wars Outlaws and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and a lot of other games that punch way above what a tablet should be doing. It's crazy what it can achieve. There are still compromises in places, but compared to what Switch 1 was getting, where you had to not only sacrifice the resolution, but also the frame rate and also the textures and also a lot of other stuff, we haven't come remotely close to that kind of realm. And it's at that point now where I think you can just rely on Switch 2 as just that one place to play games and have a good time doing that.
It's definitely true that there's this feeling that things are a bit different this time around. With the original Switch, it was a great place to play portably. I don't know that qualifier needs to exist for Switch 2. Derek and I both worked on coverage for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which means we played a lot of it. And it's pretty remarkable that a game of that size and scope exists. We've said this multiple times, John, in particular, you and I, on this show, that it just doesn't feel like there's anything that's truly out of reach, even with current gen ports for the Switch 2. There are things you might have to do to get there. But I think, the huge difference here is that with the original Switch, there were definitely games you would pick up and play on PS5 or PC or Xbox and say, oh, there's just no way. This isn't ever going to come to Switch. It's too big. Graphics are too nice. It's built with modern hardware in mind, and you just can't get this down no matter how talented the developer is. And to see games like The Witcher 3 or Doom or whatever running on the original Switch was wow, I can accept that this looks pretty bad because it's here at all. Whereas with Switch 2, I just I haven't yet met a game where I'm like, oh, this just wouldn't work. I would fully anticipate that if Rockstar was of the mind to do it, they could even get GTA 6 on this thing if that's what they wanted. Because we keep hearing it again and again, and it keeps bearing out to be true, is that the Switch 2 is at least as powerful as the Xbox Series S.
Mm-hmm. Ubisoft just said that with Rayman Legends, which is going to have ray tracing on Switch 2 at 60 FPS, and they're saying just expect Series S level. But a lot of the time with these games, it goes a bit above Series S. Series S is usually the better performer, but when it comes to the raw visual output, because PS5 and Series S and Series X all predated the DOSS kind of era, those base systems can't AI upscale in the same way that DOSS can on the Switch 2. So only PS5 Pro with Pissa is able to kind of do that. But you get Series S versions of Pragmata and Resident Evil Requiem, and even Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. They end up looking visually nicer on Switch 2, which is crazy for a portable system that takes 10 watts of power?
Yeah. That's the thing people need to remember. Like you said, you take off the Joy-Con and this thing is it's just a tiny little tablet. It's a little guy and it's doing so much with so little in terms of hardware size. You could probably fit 5 or 6 of them inside a PS5 Pro, and a Series S is still 2 to 3 times the size of the Switch 2, and the Switch 2 is frankly outperforming it more often than not. I'm super impressed with what Nintendo has done with the hardware, and I want to take that opportunity to just talk about our experiences with the hardware itself, because I remember, going to the preview and seeing Nintendo confident like they hadn't been before. For a little bit of insider experiential knowledge, I'm lucky enough that I went to both the Switch 1 and the Switch 2 preview events in the same city. And I remember when Nintendo let me go hands-on with the original Switch for the first time, it was behind glass. They had the console just, behind a glass enclosure, and they had a Pro controller wired up to the experience. And for the actual Switches themselves, for the few demos that they let you play handheld, that thing was steel bolted onto a table. You could pick it up and kind of hold it, but you weren't really getting a good feel for the hardware because it had huge brackets around it. When you walked in to the Switch 2 event, Nintendo just had Switch 2s that you could pick up that weren't tethered to anything, because they very specifically wanted you to kind of be rough with it. They were like, hey, I remember asking them, because it was my first time seeing magnetic Joy-Con, and I was like, what happens if I just dangle the console? And they're like, go for it. And I was so impressed by Nintendo's confidence that these wouldn't pop off. And it's proven to be true. I don't know about you guys, but my Switch 2 looks every bit as good as it did. And I've traveled the world with it at this point. I've been to 2 different continents, 5 different countries with it. It's been kind of crazy that it just kind of looks and feels the same way it did, despite, me tossing it in my bag and taking it virtually everywhere.
I've got one minor scruff on mine, and it's on the right Joy-Con, which I use for mouse mode. The little rubber feet on it, when you're putting it down, the color on that's degraded a little bit from where I've been scrubbing it around on a table. So that's the one scruff, but it's hidden when you don't see it when you're holding it. You don't see it when it's on the system. It's just it's there when you look for it.
Oh, okay. Do you not use the little skates, little?
Nah, I just raw dog my mouse.
My Switch 2 has the tiniest little thing on it, but you can't see it anymore because I've applied a case over it. It's the kill switch, and this over here, pretty much. The reason I got this was that, sorry, everyone that can't see it, just listening in, but it allows the Joy-Con to actually have a grip for mouse mode, which I desperately needed, because otherwise I'm holding something as thick as a French fry. So yeah. I have that. It's a lot more useful for certain games like Pokopia. I use this so much, almost exclusively with Pokopia. And it was a lot more handy and useful that way. I think the make of it is so sturdy. I'm just surprised. I go back to the Switch 1, and you can just feel the Joy-Con just so rattly and dangly compared to how solid and sturdy the Joy-Con 2 are on this console.
My Switch 1 Joy-Con would just pop off sometimes off the rail. Like if you just nudge it the wrong way, they slide straight off. And that's more just like, because I frequently take them off, to play Ring Fit, to hand to another person, and they degrade over time when you take them off the rail. And yeah, they're at that point where you just look at them wrong and they will fall off.
Yeah, that mechanical connection does degrade over time. And I remember that being one of my primary complaints about the original Switch, was that the Joy-Con just never truly felt very solidly attached. I was always afraid that like if I got too into like a session that I could potentially forcibly disconnect a Joy-Con, because you'd always feel that little bit of give that they had. And I remember that horror video, like on launch day of IGN, ripping their Joy-Con off because whoever was handling the console didn't know that there was a button on the back to like slide them off. And so they just forcibly ripped them off the Switch. And I was like, oh my God.
I never liked the not that I use them now, but the Joy-Con rail grip, the wrist strap grip for the Joy-Con 1, because getting them off took a lot of force. On Switch 2, you just pull that magnet and just comes straight off.
Have you ever? There's like there's a plus and minus to make sure you don't put them in the wrong way. Have you ever put it in the wrong way before? They're so hard.
Like, around launch time. Yeah, they just get stuck there. Don't they?
They're so hard to pull back out again.
Yeah. Whereas now you just pull that little lever, off it comes.
It's fun just to play with that little button, like just to fidget with it. It just and snap it back on. It's
I fidget with it all the time, like literally all the time. If I'm playing a game where like it's a cutscene or something, I'm just going to be detaching and attaching the Joy-Con repeatedly.
I can't say that I fidget too much with mine. Although, admittedly, I don't use my Joy-Con like outside of handheld mode very often, because I have a Pro controller, and so I use my Pro controller. I would say 90% of the time. I just love how the Pro controller feels. The only thing I've done is, if you're watching on video, I've added these little like racing stripe things to the sides of my Joy-Con. I just think it makes them look a bit neater. But as far as, the Pro controller, I think might be, weirdly, despite being the least innovative thing about the Switch 2, might be my favorite controller Nintendo's done in quite some time, like right up there with the GameCube controller. I think it was you, John, who mentioned this on the show 2 weeks back, maybe longer, but aren't the controller grips on the Pro Controller 2 modeled after the GameCube? Didn't they say that in Welcome Tour?
They did, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think that's why I like it as much as I do. I'm firmly in the camp that the GameCube controller is the best controller Nintendo has ever made. I couldn't explain why, because looking at it, I can't logic out.
For those listening, Daniel always has something within grip, and he just pulled out a GameCube controller from nowhere.
John, it's relevant. This is the NSO controller, so I had it nearby ready for when it was my turn. But I heard GameCube, and I jumped in. Sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. That's Daniel is always producing props. He's like the Carrot Top of games commentary.
I think we should question him more. He clearly has some kind of power that no other mortal possesses.
He has like the video game main character in inventory pocket. Like he just summons whatever is needed at the moment.
Pull out a Game Boy Micro, Daniel. Can you do that for me?
A Game Boy Micro? Does this count? I have a Game Boy Color. Is that close enough?
Why do you have that just right there?
It's not micro though, so it doesnn't count. So I'm sorry.
I don't know. I'll give you the points, because if I look around, for those of you that are watching, I do have a Naruto edition Game Boy Advance right here. I don't know why I have it. Man. But Daniel, you have impressive recall ability. But no, so I was saying, I think the Pro Controller 2 is like the nicest controller Nintendo has put out in quite some time. And that's saying something, because I don't have anything bad I can say about the original Switch Pro Controller. I just think that the Pro Controller 2 is so much more comfortable, and that soft touch plastic that they've used seemingly for everything has held up really nicely over the year. Like I don't know about you guys, but mine still feels really nice in the hand. Hasn't gotten like nasty or greasy or slippery over time. But I'm pretty fastidious about like hand washing. So I try not to like eat and play at the same time or anything like that. But I feel like mine's held up pretty well. What about you guys? How are your Pro controllers?
mine's
hanging
wonderful.
in 1 year later.
Yeah, I don't really use the headphone jack much, and I don't really use the C button much. So in terms of new features, I'm not using a whole lot of it. But it's the material though. That's what I am happy to have paid for. Because with the original Pro controller, I think it's great, and I loved it in its era. But going back to picking one up now, it's like this feels, I don't know, it doesn't feel premium in the same way this new one does. I think it is just the nicest material on just a regular controller.
Yeah, I think the Switch 2 Pro controller, it's soft and firm, which is how I like it. Like it's like the material is like, I still can't wrap my head around it. It's so soft in the hands, but it's so sturdy and like durable, it feels like. And I love the fact that the joysticks, when you clack it, and you can't clack it, it's very soft. Like they're just, and it still feels so premium. I've used the headphone jack quite a bit. I think I played through the entirety of Hollow Knight Silksong with the headphone jack in. Also because there's other people that live here, and I'm trying to like not be loud, but I also wanted to just kind of take in the amazing sound design of that game, and it really enhances it. It feels like something that should have been here for a while now. You kind of had that with like the Wii U gamepad, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same kind of experience. This is entirely different, and I'm very happy with purchasing one.
Yeah, I don't use GL and GR as much as I maybe should, but I'm playing through Persona 3 Reload on Switch 2 now, and I love in RPGs having accept, like the A button on both the left and right side, because that way you can just chill out. You know, it's a big scene, you want to advance things without going automatic, you can just, hold it in left hand, hold it in right hand. Just, it's commitment free, and I like that. And when Elden Ring comes along, I'm going to put the run button on GL, because I always claw when playing Souls games. Like, claw the A button to run, and then, like, claw the right stick to move the camera around.
That's exactly what I did with Pragmata, which also looks and runs really good on Switch 2 before we pass on from that. I think you have to click in the stick to run, but I mapped it to GL so that I don't have to click in a stick while the stick that I'm moving with to do so, and it's so much more fluid that way.
Yeah.
A lot of fun different applications you can use with that. It's so flexible, and I've just become a fan of any controller with like little shoulder pads in the back.
Mm-hmm.
When I remember GL and GR exist, I use them, but I will admit that I just don't think about them most times. I think it's a cool feature. I've enabled it, and I think the most notable use of it for me was when Brandon did his coverage on Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, and I was like, oh, having that to run is much more comfortable. Because
that's another claw one. Because there's times where you want to run and jump at the same time.
Exactly. Like I usually have my index finger and my middle finger on the top of the controller so that I can run and jump. And so it's really useful for that. I need to use it more. It's just one of those things that because it's not signposted within the games themselves, I just never think about. So very cool feature. I love that controller. I also have never used the headphone jack. I never remember that it's there. And you would think I'd get more mileage out of it, because I just I literally have a dual gaming setup where Rosie and I both play in the same room pretty close to each other, and it can be hard to hear if we're both playing something kind of loud at the same time. Like she's been playing Pragmata lately, and it is really hard to listen to narrative beats in a game when someone is actively shooting things. So I should probably start using the headphone jack. I don't think this is going to come at any surprise. I keyed in on this during our intro, but has anyone... Yeah, actually, you know what? Am I the only one that bought the Switch 2 webcam, or did either of you buy it?
I've got it. Here it comes, John.
I just plug in the webcam that I'm using right now for this. Just it's a regular Logitech webcam.
I tried. I have like 3 different normal USB cameras. It can only read the microphone, but not the actual camera itself. I'm just like, so I ended up getting one of these instead, which it hasn't been utilized a whole lot, but the times I have used it, I've enjoyed it.
I saw them. They've been discounted a lot in the UK. CEX have them right now for £10.
£10. Wow. Yeah, I have a stupid number of them. I think I have three of them, and Initially, I thought it was going to get a lot of usage because my kids also have Switch 2s, and I thought they would go bananas for it. They don't care at all. Like they do not give two craps about it. I got one because it was launch day stuff. I picked it up thinking people will want to know. Nobody in our audience really cared about it either. I do think it's going to get a new lease on life with the release of Star Fox in a couple weeks. But unfortunately, that's for another episode. We'll probably do like a full-on Star Fox game chat episode here coming up. Yeah. But
there was a Welcome Tour game that also did what Star Fox does. It was just like the smiley face emoji, but you could like close your eye and it would copy you. It was a cool showcase of the tech, but games aren't using it. There's one instance in like Puyo Puyo Tetris 2S where you can also like put your face onto the board, or in Mario Party Jamboree, but like your icon there. It's all like it's neat supplement stuff, but nothing that makes you go like, oh, I've got to get this.
I'm going to defend this little thing. I do enjoy. I have a circle of friends that I can actually play this with every now and then. Like for Mario Party Jamboree, like it pretty much replaces. When you're using the camera, you're pretty much in every single mini game. Like your face is constantly present there, and it removes the emotes. You can't emote anymore because now your face is the emote. Yeah, that was very clever of them. And I mean, there's the silly like Jamboree TV, other stuff that you can do on there as well. But the main party mode with friends is really enjoyable. And a lot of it's really just supplemental, like Animal Crossing, New Horizons also added the feature so you can like see the icon over your player's head. Only up to 4. That's the thing with a lot of these, it's only up to maximum of 4. So like if you're in a lobby for Mario Kart World, for example, you can have multiple people, but only 4 maximum can use the camera for game chats. And one thing I enjoyed about it in Mario Kart World is that it actually uses the same kind of reactive and situational cues as it did in the arcade. So like when you when you slip on a banana, your character spins around. When you get a star, you're glowing like a rainbow on your little icon. I thought it was really clever and cute. But it's obviously none of that is necessary. It's all just extra fluff that if you have friends to do that with, it can be fun. But there's nothing that like there's no reason to need to have it. It's like having We Speak for Animal Crossing. Yeah.
It's no Sega Superstars for the PS2i toy. Let's leave it at that. But what is?
I think it speaks to how long it takes to bring a console to market, because I think this idea was probably cooked up, in 2020, like at the height of all of us being in lockdown, and it would have been a major game changer then. I think it just now it's like, well, I can just go see my friends. But
we spent everyone spent the whole Switch life cycle, especially in the early days, being like, give us game chat. Where's game chat? And now we've got native game chat, and we're like, man, just give us those resources back. We don't want that all used on chat. We want it used in games.
Yeah, we're an unpleasable lot.
We're so needy.
But let's go ahead and dive into the most important thing about our first year with the Switch 2, and that's, of course, the games. John, you've mentioned it, and I agree with you. There really hasn't been like a break or a drought in releases at any point in this year. It's pretty much been a steady cadence of having something to play at least once a month. For as long as this has been, for the 12 months that the console has been on the market. We talked a lot about what we picked up at launch, but I want to go back through that and kind of get our highlights now that we're separated from having to cover these games. And I'll start with you, Daniel. What are your standout games from the launch lineup on the Switch 2? Like, what ended up being your favorites?
Oh, from the launch lineup. I am still thinking about how I not rushed, but I was very focused in on doing the Mario Kart World review. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I think I give it a 9. I would probably not rate it as highly at this moment. Like, we've gone a whole year, and unfortunately, Nintendo has set up the expectation with the Booster Course Pass of Mario Kart 8 being around for like 10 years. After 1 year, we've had no new characters, no new costumes, no new courses or tracks.
Bob on Blast?
We got Bob on Blast, actually. I'm sorry, John. I should have remembered Bob on Blast.
Which isn't even really a different mode. It's just regular battle, but with just bombs.
It's just all bombs now. So honestly, like seeing, I was more impressed by the scope of that game, like just being able to drive anywhere, just the fact that it can be contextually a different game for some people, that you can just be one where you just explore the whole world and you don't need to like do actual races. You can just enjoy this massive area to just kind of collect things or just enjoy the ride. But overall, like the new things that they added, like the gosh, the what's it called when you have
The parkour system.
oh the parkour system as well, but the mode where you're all racing against each other and you get elimination.
Knockout tour.
Knockout tour. Yeah,
I couldn't remember knockout tour. I'm a bad reviewer. But no, that was like probably the standout for me, and I still come back to that every now and then just to play around with either with friends or just going online. There's that one, and then I suppose this counts as one as well, but I also played a lot of Deltarune as well during that time, Chapter 3, Chapter 4. Obviously, not exactly a showcase of what the console can do, but I enjoy my time with that one. There's so many things that I feel like it all just kind of jumbles up together into things that we're playing. Because like I also, it kind of counts. I played the GameCube as well. That was another thing that I enjoyed a lot because it had Wind Waker, F-Zero GX, Soul Calibur 2, very novel and highly praised games on that console as well. But yeah, that's mostly just enjoying the retro stuff that was on there and things like the Switch 2 versions of games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. That was most of my experience during the early weeks of the Switch 2.
Nice. Yeah, I think that there's I'm looking at a list of every game that came out, and it's so much more than I remember. Looking at it, I'm like, yeah, I know all these games came out, but it's just such a giant list. For me personally, out of all of those games, I would say my standout has to be Street Fighter 6. I'm still playing it like daily, and so and it's crazy to say because when I looked at the launch list of games, Street Fighter 6 was like that's kind of neat. And blipped right back off my radar. Of course, we did coverage on it. We showed it off. It is a technical showcase on the Switch 2. Like it looks virtually indistinguishable from the PS5 version of the game. That is really cool. But more importantly, it's just the exact same Street Fighter 6 experience, no compromises, and I can take it with me. So I'm a big fan of playing ranked matches, and I'll do one or two almost every single day. And I almost immediately, like overnight, shifted from doing those on PS5 to just doing them on Switch 2 because now I could be in bed doing a couple ranks, or I could be on the train or whatever. And that for me was massive, and it kind of shows me just what the potential is here to have a full-fledged console experience, a game that you know and love on a console that stays in your living room, and just have that with you everywhere. But what about you, John? What's your standout from the initial launch? Like, is there anything that you continued to play long after we covered?
I mean, you guys have said a bunch of them already. Street Fighter 6, I still play every now and then. Mario Kart World is always in the rotation. I play that with my wife a ton. I don't play Mario Kart games single player ever, really. So I still haven't unlocked the mirror mode in that game. Because when I'm racing, it's just online. So it caught me as a surprise when I really got into the open world and did like every mission that was available there. That was a lot of fun. And I think the mechanics carry that game really far when you like learn the parkour system, learn the shortcuts. But there's obviously some content shortcomings as well. I guess the launch for me was an opportunity to play a bunch of games that I didn't play on PS4 or PS5. So I've owned Yakuza 0 a few times, but I never properly played it for whatever reason. So that was a nice opportunity to try that. One of my biggest highlights was actually Hitman, which I played on PS2, but never touched like the modern ones. And I love it. They're all really fun. I played through 1 through 3 in pretty quick succession. And I think they're just wonderful games. Gave me a lot of faith in Bond as well. Also, I always wanted to like play Sonic Generations on a portable, and that Switch 1 version came along, but it was 30 FPS. It's like I think Switch 1 could have done that. So we finally got a 60 FPS portable Sonic Generations with Shadow Generations as well. So it was just a cool opportunity to catch up and play a few games portable. Cyberpunk's another big one, which I got at launch, mostly to support the fact that it was on a cartridge, unlike most of the other games. And for some reason, I didn't really play it until now. And I think it starts a bit slow, but I am like coming around to really enjoying Cyberpunk now. But it's a big launch. You can like play these games and nothing more for a long time, and there's a lot of stuff to fulfill you. And that's on top of all the free updates they gave to Switch 1 games, and the fact that every Switch 1 game also just boosts naturally to run better on Switch 2. And now we've got handheld boost as well. So I think it's some of the best backwards compatible, best compatibility we've had on any console.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. I think that just having access to our Switch libraries is massive, right? I know all three of us here have built up quite the library on the original Switch. And by and large, all of those games run without fault or better than they did. And that alone really gives you a lot to dive into. I'm
really
really
when they
glad
revealed
to hear
it, there was like a website that charted what works and what doesn't. And we've got 400 working and 5,000 that don't. It's like, that's worrying. And then the system came out and it's like, man, there's like 100 that don't work and we fixed them all now. It was like really fast getting that all just kicked off.
Yeah, it was definitely a bit concerning in the lead up to launch how close we were, and they had such a relatively small list of games that seemed to work flawlessly. But I'll give Nintendo credit. It seems like they just had a massive team validating all these games, and by and large, it was just that they hadn't gotten around to validating everything. But some games did get patches, and then of course they had some that were just on the no-fly list, which technically should probably work now that we have Virtual Boy, because a lot of them were like NSO, or I'm sorry, oh my gosh, it's escaping me. Labo, thank you. Yeah. I got NSO Virtual Boy in my head and couldn't get rid of it. So yeah, Labo games that required the headset. So now technically, if you have a Virtual Boy headset, those would probably just work fine.
They do work. Yeah. You can play Smash VR. You can play Captain Toad VR. All works.
Yeah, I wonder. John, you seem like the type who would have checked this out. Did you check out Breath of the Wild or Odyssey VR?
Oh yeah, of course I did.
Do they run better? Is it still nausea-inducing?
Well, no. it still goes quite low resolution in Breath of the Wild. Looks a little bit better, but I don't think it's the recommended way to play. Odyssey VR is pretty cool to check out, though. It's nothing major, but it's nice getting a little bit of extra modes in that game. It uses fixed cameras as well, so it's not a nauseating thing, really.
Yeah, I remember being okay with Odyssey VR. Breath of the Wild VR made me want to throw up. So I had trouble with that one because I think it's like 15 FPS at most on Switch 1.
It does run better, but I think the fact that you've got a locked camera, it just makes your head feel weird because your movements aren't tracking with the game. And I think there's a gyro mode as well, but it's got the smoothing on, so your head is like smoothing with your analog movements, and God, that doesn't feel nice.
No, I can't imagine it does. I will say, John, one thing that I wanted to key in on, your experience with Hitman inspired me to pick up that game as well at launch. And once they got it running to 30 FPS, once they capped it at 30 FPS, I should say, I had so much fun with that game, and it inspired me to pick up 007. That was the reason that I got that game, and I absolutely adore 007. It's a really fun game, like a big popcorn game in my mind. Like if you just kind of shut your brain off and enjoy what's happening and don't think about it like super critically, I think it's a really fun experience. Like, and to be fair, I would say the same of most James Bond films. Like I think it's just a really good action game. Like if you're looking for something with a deep, stirring narrative, you're not going to find it. But if you're looking for, I'm going to drive cool cars and use gadgets and blow things up, it delivers on that in spades. It's my favorite
coming
Bond
to Switch
game.
too.
Oh man,
both that and Lego Batman aren't day and date. But Lego Batman's currently listed on the eShop as September. Don't think it's meant to be, but it is. So that's not like a big delay. But a lot of games have been coming day and date, especially the Capcom stuff with Resident Evil and Pragmata. They've both been day and date. And it's becoming a little bit more common that happens. But even the ones that aren't, we're talking a couple of months off, which has been like that's been really refreshing.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned these day and date games, because we did have, like, for a couple months after the Switch 2 launched, games that were just like, the games were coming out, but they were, in my opinion, like, okay games. July we had DK Bonanza, which was great. That was a game that, in my opinion, should have launched with the hardware. But then our August release was like Dragon Drive, and I think that one just kind of passed the world by. I think I played it like 3 times, and I was like, this is not for me. I think I think in a couple years from now, we'll find out there's like an incredibly hardcore dedicated fan base for that. That's like a tiny group
I think
people.
it was a cool mouse showcase. That'll be its legacy. You know, it's more than just a computer mouse. You can use both of them. That's it. It's cool on paper, not necessarily in game format though.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think its art style does it any favors. It doesn't feel like a Nintendo game when you look at it. But yeah, Nintendo actually dropped 2 games in August. We got also Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Nintendo Switch edition plus Star-Crossed World, which I think was super cool. You know, we got the game at like a proper 60 FPS, better visuals. They added a whole DLC on top of it. I remember some folks being mad because it's an $80 package if you get everything, I think. But I always viewed this as just like a great deal if you already had the game, and maybe one to wait on if you didn't.
Yeah, we had fun with that. We played a little bit at PAX that last year as well.
We did, which is really funny because I don't know if either of you have played the Onimusha demo that just came out, which is I imagine I have. Please don't take this as me saying something. I imagine that will probably come to Switch 2 as well at some point.
Yeah, everything
feels like it.
Yeah, it has to, but I don't know that, and I'm not saying I know that, but that was also the demo we played at PAX a year ago, Daniel. And now you can just play it at home, which is, I imagine that Capcom will probably drop an Onimusha demo. Who knows? This is like 3 days before Summer Game Fest as we're recording, so maybe they announce that sometime soon, but just like they did with Pragmata, right? Like we get a Switch 2 demo once they're ready to announce Switch 2 for that game as well. But anyway, let's talk about games that are here, because I think early September, just a little bit after, we got a game that I don't think anybody could have ignored as a Switch 2 edition day and date with everything else, and that's Hollow Knight Silksong. And it's really hard to overstate how massive this was at release.
Yeah, it's actually kind of an echo of what Switch 1 had at launch as well, which was Hollow Knight Spectre of Torment. It's like these indie games, while they sound like they might be smaller, they're actually huge parts of the legacy, especially in the first year. Like when I think about Switch 1's first year, I think about stuff like Golf Story. But like with Switch 2, we had like both Silksong and Hades 2 in quick succession. And that's all you needed. And they're some of the best games on the console. And they both use 120 hertz, which like nothing else. Well, a few other games do, but most other games were not even coming close to considering using.
Yeah. I mean, and we didn't just see we've seen pretty consistent big third-party support. It's worth noting, you know, I know Daniel and Derek were really wrapped up in Trails in the Sky first chapter, which came out just a little bit before Hades 2. You know, Shinen released the Tourist Deluxe, which I think is one of the highest resolution games on any console ever. Like, I think it's one of the only 8K PS5 games.
Yeah.
You know, we got Pac-Man World 2 Repack, which I know Daniel covered on the channel. Final Fantasy Tactics, which I don't think got the credit it deserved. That is probably my favorite remake of in recent memory, like, because it has the whole PS1 version on the cartridge.
I love when games do that. Yeah,
they're just like, play the original if you want.
My favorite remake on Switch 2, and this is also a Switch game, as is Tactics and Trails, but Dragon Quest 1 plus 2 HD 2D is ridiculous, especially 2. Like 2, Dragon Quest 2 HD 2D is a new game. Like it's barely a remake. It just sort of wears the bones of the original. But it's Dragon Quest 12 in almost every regard. Like it does so much different and new.
Oh, I still need to play it. For Christmas last year, my family got me Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D and Dragon Quest 3, and I haven't played them yet, but they're high on my list.
And 3 got a free update on Switch 2 as well. That was really nice. It just like made it PS5 standard. And like 3 is a pretty loyal retelling, but one's quite close, but 2 is just something else entirely, which is nice because that was one of like the least popular games in the series, and now it's like one of the best overall.
Yeah, those are great.
I can't wait to play them.
You mentioned Trails in the Sky. This is my introduction to the series for the first time, seeing the remake of the very first game. And I played all the way through. I had a great time with it. It runs just flawlessly on Switch 2. It's not like a graphically intensive game or anything, but the art style really pops on Switch 2, especially in handheld. It's very much competent in handheld as well. If you wanted to get the upgrade to Switch 2 edition, it's $1 to do so, which I thought was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think upgrades like that are because Japan has a law that you can't give away something like that for free. Like you have to charge a nominal amount. I think legally it was like 300 yen or something you had to do. Because we saw a few different Switch 2 upgrades where it was like this absurdly low price, and it came out that it was because there was some regulatory reason they had to do that. Mm-hmm. But, weirdly, well, not necessarily weirdly, because we got Kirby right at the end of August. We didn't get a first-party release in September of 2025, but near the middle of October, we did get Pokemon Legends ZA, which I mean, I moved past it pretty quickly, but I had a lot of fun playing that. Did either of you pick up Legends ZA?
Oh, yeah. I played that all. I played a Pokemon game to death, more so than I should. But no, I enjoy this a lot. I know some people are going to be talking about how, it's not very expansive compared to the original Pokemon Legends. That one is just a completely different setting altogether where you're actually exploring out there. Kind of its Breath of the Wild moment for the Pokemon series. But here, it's much more condensed inside the city. And performance and visuals are always going to be something to talk about with Pokemon games, hopefully less so going into Winds and Waves. But it did run at 60 FPS. It was really nice to see this game perform. I don't mind the city or urban visuals and everything, even though some of them are pretty repetitive. I still had a lot of fun with the game. I enjoyed the new mechanics of battle. They can get kind of, once you kind of figure it out, it's kind of like you've kind of been there, done that. You've seen this, but I mean, in the moment, being able to do like real time battles, running around like that, it's a different feel, and I enjoyed that a lot.
It's the only Pokemon game mainline that I haven't bought. I've bought like everything since Gen 1, and I will. It's just I've literally just never had downtime where I've not had a game that I'm playing, and so eventually I will pick this up. But with Switch 2, I think that there's two perspectives to the library. There's the first-party perspective, and then the overall third-party as well perspective. And that the third-party stuff kind of gets lost because I always have something going on with Switch 2, and that's because I'm playing most of what's on offer rather than just the Nintendo stuff. And so right now, there hasn't been a gap where I'm like I've got to get Pokemon. I'm just holding on.
Well, that's a good point because you and I talked about this previously, John, not on the show, just personally. You're currently playing Persona 3 Reload, which came out just a few days after Legends ZA, like a week to the date after that game released. That was and I was informed I was very wrong for doing it, but that was my game of the year in 2025. I really loved Persona 3 Reload, and the Switch 2 was where I played it. It turned me into a full-blown Persona fan because right after I played that, I played through all of Persona 5 on Switch 1. And I'm now waiting with bated breath for Persona 4 Revival. And I bought all the original games. I don't have time.
I'm having a much better time of Reload on Switch 2 as well. Because when it came out on PS5, I scuffed it down, just like playing very quickly. Because I can't play big RPGs on just a console very often. And so I end up playing them like way into the night just to kind of get it all done, because otherwise the opportunities don't come. With Reload on Switch 2 now, I'm just playing it whenever I can, when the time comes. I can just like turn it off mid-conversation sometimes if I have to, or in the middle of Tartarus, just come back to it when I want to. And yeah, it's Persona's always been a flexible handheld franchise for me. I fell in love with it on PSP and Vita, and continuing that portable nature is always what Persona's going to be about to me. It's just so well ingrained to that. Yeah, I've had a great time playing this on Switch too.
Still need to have a big old conversation about Persona with you, Steve. One day it'll happen.
Yes. Well, I have a feeling. I have a feeling that we're going to have that opportunity very soon. I don't know. I'm headed to Summer Game Fest in 24 hours from now, and I have a feeling that in 48 hours we'll have a reason to talk about Persona. But anyway, that's a discussion for another day. Let's keep going through the Switch 2, because I'm glad you kind of shifted things back towards third party, John, because realistically, there's third party games massively outnumber first party support on the Switch 2, and that just makes sense because there's one Nintendo and there's so many companies making games for the Switch 2. Some notable ones we got Ball Pit, which was briefly captured the interest of like the whole industry for a few weeks. We got 2 Point Museum, which is another pretty big franchise. It's not one that I personally enjoy like a huge amount, but my wife absolutely adores it, and she was super hyped when it came out for Switch 2. So much so that she ditched her PS5 copy and just bought a Switch 2 version and started playing it again there. But we had, like we mentioned, Dragon Quest 1 and 2, HD 2D, Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, which actually turned out to be one of the worst Switch 2 releases in history. Riddled with bugs, bad online play, weirdly desynced video. Like it just was a strange release. Dave the Diver. We had just a lot of other small games, Overcooked 2, stuff like that. But we're getting into November, which is where we saw Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. And I'm very curious because we didn't actually talk about this a lot on the channel at the time of release. I think because we were all, it was getting towards the end of the year and we were very busy, just kind of playing through our backlogs at this point. I don't know about you guys, but I had a massive backlog by the time we got to Age of Imprisonment.
And it's a great game. I think it's one that doesn't leave much of a legacy because it's following a very similar Hyrule Warriors game from Age of Calamity. But it's great seeing it so smooth. It was really fun in the moment, and I had a good time with it. It was also nice getting a bit more time with these characters who were never really explored very much in Tears of the Kingdom. I had a good time, yeah. But it's just kind of one that I don't think is going to be one that you think about when you think about Switch 2 very much.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the Hyrule Warriors games, like for Age of Imprisonment and Age of Calamity. They're more for the story portion of it. You want to see these characters more. You want to see more of a narrative with these characters. Either it's different periods of time that you don't see with the main games, which are more the exploratory titles. But no, I really I enjoyed Age of Imprisonment, being able to see new characters like Calamos, my standout, my little Korok boy.
It's very cool, yeah.
And I had a lot of fun with that one, and I hope that we're going to move on from this art style, please. I've had enough of this art style.
I've said before, I think Dynasty Warriors Origins, which came out, I think January, right?
Yes.
That left a lot more of an impact on me because it wasn't just more Hyrule Warriors in the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom period. It really it brings Dynasty Warriors forward. It had crazy crowd sizes, and it was like on parity with PS5 in most regards. I think that's one of the best ports in the entire console. And in terms of gameplay, it's a lot more interesting. But it doesn't have Zelda attached to it though, so I don't think it got a whole lot more attention on when it came out on Switch 2.
Right. I think the Zelda IP is really the main selling point, obviously for Hyrule Warriors. But I'm kind of with you guys. I played through it, and I started out initially trying to do every single side quest, every single small thing that was available. Eventually I was just like, this is too much. I don't care. I want to finish the story of this game. And I think it has an okay enough story. Like it's serviceable. But like you said, John, I think the key draw here is that it's a Hyrule Warriors game in all that entails, but it's finally running perfectly. And that to me is the key selling point here. But you could have just as easily sold me a Switch 2 upgrade for the Age of Calamity that ran it at full 60 FPS at 1440p or whatever. And I would have been just as happy with that, because I don't think that the particular story on offer was anything that, like you said, I'm not going to look back in another year and be like, man, remember Age of Imprisonment? Like I think it's just another game, that filled a spot and was fun while it was there. But I can't imagine going back and picking it up and playing it again.
It's not ambitious. Like I want, if Hyrule Warriors continues, if it's another Zelda Warriors game, they need to go in a very different direction, I think.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But it wasn't just that game in November. We had Yakuza Kiwami 1 and 2. We got Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, which was not the best port.
One of the lesser ports on Switch too, yeah.
Yeah, Sparking Zero, as somebody who's a huge Dragon Ball fan, I was really excited for, but, and I will be the first to defend 30 FPS when it makes sense. A fighting game is not where it makes sense. So, especially not one where the characters are super powered, fast moving people. Like it just doesn't make a lot of sense to have a 30 FPS Dragon Ball game. But John, I know you and I both picked up Tomb Raider Definitive Edition when that came out, and it didn't launch in the best state, but I do believe that it got better over time, didn't it?
Well, they've advertised that they're adding the Tressifex hair, which was like a big addition to the PS4 version of the Tomb Raider reboot. It hasn't actually released, to my knowledge, despite them
really
saying it has.
Even now.
Yeah. Maybe it has now, but like, as far as I've been following, it's been like a week and nothing's in the game yet. So I don't know what's going on there, but it is getting better. Yeah. And it's nice having all this Tomb Raider stuff on one place, because you got Tomb Raider 1 to 3, 4 to 6, and now we're getting the brand new Tomb Raider as well. That just got announced for Switch 2 after the State of Play.
Yep.
Which it looks really nice. So the fact that it's coming is always nice. It's always impressive when they pull off a current gen port like that.
Yeah, I don't know what it was that I read about it, but apparently there's some controversy with that and the usage of AI.
It's AI. They said they use it for ideas. It's like, man, it's a remake. All your ideas are in the original.
Well, it does lend some validity, because I remember when the first trailer for that remake came out and people thought that Lara Croft had an AI generated face because it looked a bit weird, and now I wonder if it was. I would hope that they weren't silly enough to do that, but I don't think we'll ever know. Now this next game though is tailored toward Daniel, I think, because on November 20th we got Kirby Air Riders, and I am going to just say that I gave this game my very best shot, and that's the nicest thing I can say about it. I'm not saying it's a bad game. It's not for me, though. Yeah.
You've got to respect what's in there, even if you don't like it. There's clearly a lot of love in there.
Yeah, the Sakurai and his team, they made a game that was essentially a GameCube game in the year 2025, which was impressive. Just with all the enhancements that we always ever wanted. There's more to do. There's a sort of, not story mode, but it is story mode. It is more arcadey. It's a lot like the single player in Smash Brothers for 3DS, where you can choose a path. And it's very arcadey in that sense. City Trial was back, bigger than ever, 12 players, online mode. And I feel like this is the first time I really saw a Nintendo title that was a Switch 2 showcase for a Nintendo, because that game, there is so much happening. There is so much visual and audio stimulation happening, like in City Trial. But that thing never dips. It's like it stays constant for nearly the entire time. If there's any dips, I can't really notice any. But seeing that happen and just experiencing that in a game like this for a Nintendo console, it made me realize, there's a lot more power to the Switch 2 than I realized. That's a showcase for me personally.
Yeah, that's something Nintendo have done quite a lot with their first party stuff. It's not necessarily like visual wonder as much as it is scope and how much you can just put on screen. So Mario Kart World's got that with its open world. DK Bonanza's got that with just wrecking everything. And Kirby just goes flipping nuts. I enjoyed Air Riders. I'm not quite as passionate about it as you are, but I do love how much they just put in. It just feels like they're putting their all into their dream project. And I've always got to respect that. But I did also really love the Game Share update. And this is one of the best examples of a Game Share game where you can either online or locally just give someone else their own screen. And it goes like beyond what Wii U was doing with, TV and gamepad play, because you can do it for 4 people. It's like this and Hyrule Warriors. That's another great example. You can just play online and just give somebody else their own screen and play on one copy of the game. It's a greatly underrated feature, and it doesn't even feel like we've explored it that much with in this first year.
Yeah,
we certainly haven't. It's always a surprise when we get a good game share game like that, where you just need one copy. It still kind of surprises me to hear about it, and I feel like this is going to be, John, you and I just recorded a discussion about the DS and the Wii and how they connect, which you guys will be seeing soon.
Yeah, it's nearly done.
And I feel like this is almost going the way of that, right? Like when the Switch 2 has been off the market for years and years, we'll probably be here grayer than I am now and talking about how games should have utilized this more. But it is easily the best feature on the Switch 2 that is going woefully underutilized.
Yeah.
All right. So as we headed out of November and into December, and I'm going to start going through these a bit more quickly, because otherwise we're going to have like a cinema length feature.
You'll be here forever.
Yeah, we had Marvel Cosmic Invasion, Assassin's Creed Shadows, which was an incredible port.
That's a graphical showcase. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. We got the Switch 2 edition of Red Dead Redemption, but the big release in December came just in the first week of the month, and that was Metroid Prime 4. And I feel like this is a very complicated game to discuss, because I think opinions of this one still are kind of all over the place. I think some people really love it, and I think some people really dislike it, and I can see both sides of the argument with this one. I didn't love the desert hub in this game.
The game's kind of met the worst fate that you can get, where it's just not really talked about now. It was announced 8 years ago, and its legacy is just kind of quiet now. And I think it was fine. It was a fine game. It has problems. Of course, it has some problems, but I had a good time playing through it. But I'm also in that group where, am I thinking about it now? No.
Yeah,
Not
and
really.
I think it's very interesting because Daniel mentioned that Kirby Air Riders is very much a GameCube game. And I would say the same is true of Prime 4. Like, Prime 4 is a GameCube game in 2026, but I think the difference is when people say Kirby Air Riders is a GameCube game, they mean it as a compliment. Yeah. And when people say it about Prime 4, they largely mean it as an insult. And I don't think that Prime 4 is a GameCube game in the pejorative way. I find it to be enjoyable in the same way I loved GameCube games. I just think that it does little to branch out beyond its GameCube roots. And I had a lot of fun playing it, but like you said, John, it was another game that I played, I finished, I was like, that was really good. I mean, I took like 1 million screenshots during the way. Visually, it was stunning. But I also I'm done with it now. I don't think it's going to leave a lasting impression beyond, I had a great 15 hours with this game, and now I'm ready to put that on the shelf and move on.
Yeah, that title, I can see how people can say that it's not their favorite, or there's not much to talk about it, because it does feel like something that we've already seen before. It didn't do a whole lot to push it, and a lot of that is because just its development cycle in general. Like, there's a lot of ideas clashing with the early development and restarting it, and things like, we have to have like an open world and have it implemented this way, and then they kind of wanted to backtrack, but they kind of had to commit. Virtual Studios had to pretty much commit with what they were doing at that point. So it's a bit of a mishmash of ideas at this point. If there's a Metroid Prime 5, and I'm sure there will be, that'll be a bit more focused with a certain idea and goal in mind. At least I hope it would be. But things like the Desert Overworld was just kind of there to give you something to do and give you the motorcycle and move around and collect way too many green crystals that I wanted to stop collecting by the end. But as someone who enjoys the GameCube versions of Metroid Prime, I don't know, I kind of treated this more like a Wii game with the enhanced motion controls from the Metroid Prime trilogy, because I kind of set my separate Joy-Con to function like a Wii remote and nunchuck, and I had a lot of fun doing it that way. There's a lot of options to play the game with, if whatever you're most comfortable with. But I think when it comes down to it, we played Metroid Prime Remastered, and when we played this one, there wasn't too much I could say is definitely different and makes it stand apart and unique. So I think that's where the identity kind of gets lost.
I think you hit the nail on the head, though, with the next one feels like it's going to be the one. Like, this one was incredibly troubled. There's interviews out there where they say, like, we had to have an open world because, Zelda did it. So, like, now we've got to do it. And so clearly it was just a troubled game with a lot of ideas that didn't work. But there were good moments. I really like that sort of, I can't remember what the area is. It's the ice area where things are sort of like powered off and going through there. It's actually quite tense. It was a cool area. But yeah, not to talk about this game too much because I think it's kind of it's a little bit of a footnote really in Switch 2's legacy.
Yeah, and as we went through December, we didn't get a whole lot else. I mean, it was near the end of the year. I'd say the other really big notable release for some folks was the Switch 2 edition of Stardew Valley, released on Christmas Day, which was a really nice surprise for people.
Mouse mode. That was cool.
Yeah, my wife is a massive Stardew fan, so she was really happy that this came out on Christmas when she didn't have work. But just a few weeks later, we got the Switch 2 edition for Animal Crossing New Horizons, and boy, was this a lot more divisive than it needed to be.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think that Nintendo put themselves in a situation where they could not win, because they put all of the best stuff in the free update, which is objectively the best thing to do. But then they released a Switch 2 edition, which was $5, but only really was like a minor resolution bump, if that. Because I think it still ran in 1080p. And then they added like the mouse mode for decorating, and they added the megaphone, essentially. A lot of people rightfully called it out as just not being much for a Switch 2 edition. I personally just wanted mouse mode. Mouse mode was the be all end all for why I wanted that update. But this was largely carried by the free stuff. I'm not going to belabor it. We have a whole video where I re-reviewed the game, so you can go watch that if you want to hear 12 minutes of me talking about it. But it was notable. It's the first party release of 2026. John, for you and me, I think January 22nd was a much more important date because that was when we got both Dynasty Warriors Origins and FF7 Remake.
Yeah.
And these are two just fantastic games. Like these are standouts of this year for me.
Yeah. I mean, this is at the time where I think we were still kind of figuring out like what exactly it is this system can do, because Nintendo, they still haven't really showed it outside of Star Fox. But Ubisoft with Assassin's Creed and Star Wars is like, man, maybe this can do like PS5 visuals. And obviously Remake is a PS4 game, but has all the PS5 lighting, has integrates, it's got the Yuffie story.
Yeah, and it has better textures than the PS4 version.
It's got the good door. Yeah.
Yeah, it has the good door. This for me was a really eye-opening moment as to how powerful this console is. Because we got a version of a PS4 game, and this was the first time I can really think of where we had kind of a really strong visual representation of where Switch 2 stands, in relation to both previous gen and current gen hardware, because it was somewhere in the middle. And that to me was like, wow. I still think Remake Integrate, while not the best version, is so close that I would recommend it over the PS5 version.
Yeah, I played Yuffie's story through on Switch 2. So I didn't play it I didn't get Integrate on PS5. And that was a neat little 4 or 5 hours. And Dynasty Warriors achieved something very similar, where it's like you can technically play at 60 FPS, but it's unlocked. There's a 30 lock option as well. But in handheld mode with VRR, you get a really smooth experience. And it is crazy just how much it's doing with the hardware it has.
Yeah. Dynasty Warriors is another super impressive one. Like you said, this is what Age of Imprisonment should have been to a degree. There are just hundreds upon hundreds of enemies on screen at any given moment, and the Switch 2 handles it beautifully. It runs very, very well on the hardware and just does way more than they did with the Zelda IP. I would have loved to see them. You can ride a horse
through a giant field with thousands of enemies at rapid speed, and it is nothing like what Hyrule Warriors was doing. And I did like Hyrule Warriors, but it's a different tier in what they were able to pull off in those games.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, January was good to us.
Yeah.
And I'd say largely 2026 has been good to us so far. We'll keep trucking down the list. I'm going to get this as briefly as I can since this is all very recent stuff now. But we had Animal Crossing in January. I don't know that we had a February first party game.
Was Xenoblade X
we
in
did.
March?
Xenoblade.
Oh, yeah.
We had
Which again is another iffy one.
That's a
Xenoblade
interesting
Chronicles X is a rough one. And we had Mario Tennis Fever in February, which I just kind of, that one passed me by as well. Like I played it and I liked it, but I don't think I played a whole lot of it.
I think speaking to the Switch 2's first party library, a lot of it is very spin-off heavy. And Mario Tennis is also an outlier in that it's very iterative of aces. So most Switch 2 first party games they've done are things that Switch 1 never had. So Donkey Kong, a proper Mario Kart, Kirby Air Ride, like that kind of stuff. And then with Mario Tennis Fever, it's just like it's another Mario Tennis, and I really enjoyed it. But in terms of like legacy and impact, doesn't really have it.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree with you more. February, we did also get, however, RE7, 8, and 9, and those were just. I have to go out. I've been playing very recently with my daughter, RE7 and 8. I played RE9, all the way through for review. Absolutely adore that game on Switch 2. I think that is the best way to play it. I know that it looks better on PS5, but the differences are so minimal in moment to moment gameplay, especially because the care center is mostly dark.
Yeah.
that the art style and everything fits the Switch 2 so well that you're really just kind of in awe of how this game looks more often than not.
100%. This is another like wow moment, especially because it's day and date. It wasn't an old port like the other ones, and it's just ridiculously good. And coming from someone who played 7 on PS4, 8 on PS5, it didn't feel like I was going down. It just felt the same, just continuing that path.
Yeah. I will say this as a game reviewer, when I get provided a game, if I really, really like that game, I will generally go out and buy the game to support the developers. So I ended up buying the Generations pack after I received RE9 for review, and I was like, I'm going to play all of these, and I want Capcom to get some of my money because it's excellent. And yeah, these ports are just standouts. They're fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
We got other games on Switch 2, and this time we got Blueprints, which I know Brandon is massively into. But our next big release was on March 5th, and the three of us in this episode of The Week in Nintendo actually did a video on this. It's Pokopia, which I think is for a lot of people in our audience still probably a front runner for Game of the Year.
It's the biggest game on the console. Yeah.
Yeah, this was, I think Pokopia blew up a lot more than even I expected it to. I definitely expected it to be popular. I did not expect it to move hardware, and it absolutely did that. My mom went out and bought a Switch 2 to play Pokopia, and now she travels a lot for work, and she takes her Switch 2 and Pokopia with her. And she just obsessively plays it. I think she's like 300 hours in. And I'm like,
oh my goodness.
I didn't get that far, but I finished the story.
My wife and I both juggle the game as well. And she's well over 100 hours into the game. It's ridiculous how good it is. And I don't know why it's any surprise either, because Dragon Quest Builders 1 and 2 were some of the best games you get on the Switch 1. But just mixing it with Pokemon, it was somehow perfect. Even without combat, like Dragon Quest Builders 1 and 2 have a lot of combat in their formula. This has none of that. But just going around, creating, and having that sort of like linear structure to guide you is so perfect. It doesn't feel like, like a Minecraft game where you just put in the wilderness and build what you want. There's something to build up to. And one of my favorite things was the community island we did, where you don't have to be around, just anybody can come and build whatever they want and contribute. That's a real highlight in just any online play that we've done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there was just enough direction in that game where I feel like I wasn't like getting lost with it. But you can also just kind of go off and do your own thing too. Like there's so many moments in which I was being tasked with something, but I would kind of go off, like especially on the beach, I would go off somewhere and do these other things to turn the lights on. And it's funny because when you actually reach the point where these Pokemon want you to interact with these other areas, if you've already done them, they'll have dialogue like, "Oh, you already took care of this." I thought that was really clever. And then just by the time you reach the end of the game, it just opens up to you. You can do whatever you want with these areas, or you have your own little personal island, a little area that you can just do whatever you want on there personally. I recreated like the foot of Mount Silver from Pokemon Gold and Silver to the best of my ability, and I thought that was a lot of fun. Like I don't know the people who are going to recreate so many iconic places in the Pokemon franchise, and you have that freedom to do so. You can make whatever the heck you want if you have the materials, and yeah, it's such a well-made game. I'm glad that this mix of ideas has done so well. And as you said, there's no way it couldn't have done well. It's Pokemon with the ingenuity of Dragon Quest builders.
It's also a really nice game share game. My wife plays this with our daughter a lot. We just like she just gets on her Switch One, and they just play simultaneously, and it's really nice just being able to mess around with her.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see what the community has done with the game. Like Daniel said, people building all kinds of... I remember the exact moment I fell off because I had the idea to build an apartment complex. I was going to build like a high-rise apartment complex for my Pokemon to live in. And then I think 3 days into it, I saw somebody post a video of the exact same thing, and it was so much better than what I was imagining that I was like, nope, I'm done now.
Yeah, this is the kind of game where you don't look at what other people are doing because you will get sad.
They do amazing, crazy things. Yeah.
I mean, my wife built like a whole underground rail system. Like she had seen somebody had made like the London Underground in Pokopia. So she was like, I'm just going to do that. And she did it. And I was like, that takes so much more stamina than I have. But yeah, people do amazing stuff with this. But yeah, I would say I played through the story. I absolutely loved it. I think it's a fantastic game. Definitely not my game of the year. But I would not begrudge anybody for whom it is. Because it's just a really cool original idea. And it one thing we didn't talk about is Dragon Quest Builders on Switch 1 was just as fun, but ran poorly.
Yeah.
And here, I don't really see any performance issues. Like no matter what you build, it seems like the game just kind of stays locked in at 60 FPS.
Yeah, and you can have like a whole bunch of Pokemon models just running around. They're very high quality. In Builders 2 specifically, just running around the world, it was an unlocked 60, usually hitting around 30. And Switch 2 does fix that. So if you play Builders 2 on Switch 2, it's 60 most of the time. Unless you go to people's online islands, where it is usually like still around 20. But that was like 5 on Switch 1. But yeah, they definitely made it to sustain a lot more than what Builders 2 could.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, after Pokopia, we got kind of a good number of third-party games in March. We got Dynasty Warriors 3 Complete Remastered. We had Disney Dreamlight Valley got a Nintendo Switch 2 edition. We got the terrible Tales of the Shire game. Warframe finally came to the Switch 2. Kino, which I think you covered, John, didn't you?
Yeah, it's one of the lesser in terms of image quality, but it's a good game and it runs fairly well.
Yeah. Our next big first party release was Super Mario Brothers Wonder Switch 2 edition. And John, you and I actually covered this. And I think Daniel too. Was it the three of us again that covered
we played
this?
together.
Yeah.
And this actually was so much more than Nintendo made it seem. Like it's a huge, really fun party experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you've got fond memories of like Mario versus Luigi in New Super Mario Brothers, or like Boo versus You in Mario Deluxe, this game has like 20 of those.
They didn't even tell you. You go to one mode and there's like so many different stages and options, and it's like, why didn't they advertise these like dozens and dozens of different kinds of ways to play? It was bad. It was crazy when you showed me how many there were.
Yeah, and there's more between local and online as well. So there's local specific games and online specific games. But the local specific ones you can still play with game share online. So there's a few loops in there, but you can play everything online as the story here. And they're just ridiculously fun. Like, there's multiple maps for every game, multiple variants of every game. It's crazy how much is in there. And that's not even touching upon the single player stuff, where they finally add like boss battles, like proper good boss battles to Mario Wonder, which was a big lacking point in there. I think it's quite easily the best Switch 2 edition.
Yeah, I agree with you. Visually, it's super impressive. It was always one of the best 2D Mario games, and they just added so much to it. It's a wonderful game, and again, we have a video on that, so you should go watch us yap about that for a while if you're curious on extended thoughts. But we're getting into April now, and April for me was a particularly interesting month for a number of reasons. But I would say that the standout release in April was not a Switch 2 game, but a game you could play on Switch 2, which of course was Tomodachi Life: Living the Dream. All of us picked this up, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what a back-to-back with Pokopia. Crazy.
Yeah. I did not expect it to hit the way that it did. I did not particularly expect to enjoy it as much as I have. This is... Even now, 2 months on from its release, it is an everyday thing in my house. Like, every person in my house checks in on their island every single day. And I don't think I've seen that level of consistency with a game in quite some time. Not even Pokopia got that level of attention in my house.
Yeah. I just love that there's no filter on anything. And like, to get around that, they just said you can't capture anything, man.
Oh yeah,
you still get all these just videos filmed off a phone with just the most hilarious things that you can make your me say, and it still goes viral. Like, every time I scroll like on Instagram or whatever, I'm seeing a Tomodachi Life video come up.
Oh yeah, and they're usually horrific.
Usually horrific.
The Mii's are doing something truly awful, and Nintendo knew what they were doing. I'm not gonna lie. I routinely make members of my family say and do offensive things just because I find it funny. Like, I've also done like just silly, absurd things. Like, my dad and Naruto are best friends with each other.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly. My dad's name, for those of you that don't know this, is Bart. And so Naruto calls him Baruto.
Wow. Like it was meant to be.
My dad hates it. Like, I've shown it to him and he's like, I don't like that. And I was like, it'll continue, Dad. It's going to continue to be like this. It will get worse. Like, I think my mom and Naruto are now in love with each other, and my dad has to like just deal with it.
Oh, no. This game is so unserious and dumb, and that's the whole reason why people are in love with it. And I'm glad it's getting all this attention, because we always wanted another Tomodachi game, and just seeing all these clips, it just shows how endearing it is and how like successful it was, how much it hit with people. And I think it's going to continue to leave that kind of legacy on Switch 2.
Yeah, it is obviously a Switch 1 game, but in their financials, they said I think it's around 60% of the install base were playing on Switch 2, which is really high for Switch 1 has like 150 million units out there.
Yeah.
But the majority was still on Switch 2.
Yeah, I think that that's very startling to me, because I mean, Switch 2 is selling well, but I honestly anticipated that this was going to be a game largely targeted at younger players whom almost certainly, haven't gotten a Switch 2 yet. Like, people around my kids' age, and I know my kids have Switch 2s, but I also know that they are the exception and not the rule. And that was just because their birthdays were like both right around when the Switch 2 came out. So I was like, happy birthday, you get a console, and that's all you're getting. So I think that I would have expected that to be a much higher number. I would have expected like 70 to 80% playing on Switch 1. With a small fraction. But I will say that I think a lot of older players who traditionally might not have gone for that game ended up going for it this time around. And I think that's largely due to the impact of younger players who got really hyped for it. Because I know in my case, I saw my kids getting super excited, and I was like, I should see what this is about. And I've really enjoyed it since then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But along these lines as well, we're getting Rhythm Heaven really soon. Also a Switch 1 game. Probably mostly can be played on Switch 2. Mm-hmm. And Mario Galaxy back in was like October or August or July.
Oh, you're right. We skipped over that.
Yeah, got a nice 4K upgrade on Switch too. And I played that like a bit when it came out, but then I played through all of Galaxy 2 before the Galaxy movie came out. And man, it just looks nice. It just looks really nice on Switch too.
Wii games hold up so well, and so it's really nice to see those in 4K. Like, and I'll take native 4K Wii games anytime Nintendo wants to release them.
And they keep on updating the game too. We got another page for the storybook out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They fixed the textures in some of the areas, like those trees, the filtering lights, like actually look a lot more serviceable than they did beforehand. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's weird to see like they just one day just randomly add an update and just had a whole page of lore. This was after the movie, so I don't know if it was like
well after.
Yeah. And Nintendo weren't the only ones dropping big things in April for the Switch 2. We had Mouse PI, which unfortunately Brandon told us is not a very good port. He said that it's got a lot of frame rate issues, but it is a pretty good game. And if that's something you're interested in, I would recommend checking out, maybe somewhere else. But my current front runner for Game of the Year released also in April on the 17th, and that was Pragmata, which breaks my brain to say it that way, but that's how they say it. I don't like that. But I don't know if either of you played Pragmata, but well, Daniel, I know you did actually.
I mean, when we played it for the first time at a PAX, when we played Pragmata, I was kind of like, I was really attached to it. I thought the gameplay was really fun and the concept was really interesting, and I was really happy to get that game on Switch 2 as well and just enjoy it that way. You could definitely tell, like, this is one where you could definitely tell the differences. I think mainly in Diana, the facial features and her hair look just not as good on Switch 2 as they would on the PlayStation 5, for example. But I mean, the vast majority of this game, when you're in the moments, it looks fantastic on Switch 2 and it runs so well. It was really impressive for me, and it's one of my top games this year as well.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, John.
I was gonna say the image quality is also, I think you can tell it's a bit low. Still looks better than Series S, but you can tell it's kind of being boosted up from quite a low figure. But in the heat of everything going on, it doesn't matter that much. It still runs nicely, still looks good, and the game's there. Plays great, and the story's just really endearing.
Yeah, I agree. I got a lot of heat for saying I liked it better on PS5 previously when I talked about it. I want to be clear, the Switch 2 port is great. It's really nice. It just looks better on PlayStation, which I don't think is going to surprise anyone who looks at them side by side. Every game we've talked about that's on PlayStation definitely looks better there. But again, tiny console versus giant console. So
there's definitely that diminishing returns. We're not in like Wii versus PS3 era anymore.
Right.
Like,
to be clear, saying something looks better.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks better on PS5, but it's not a generational difference. It's just, there's a 12-pound console sitting on the table with a GPU to match in there. So of course it's going to have a little bit more horsepower, but the Switch 2 version, you're not missing anything. And that's what's really critical here. Like, there's no reduced enemy counts. There's no difference from a narrative or gameplay perspective on Switch 2. It's just going to look a little bit fuzzier. And if you're okay with that, then you're going to have an amazing time with that game. Cause it is for me currently the standout of the year. And I don't think that, the next game that could potentially change that is still a few weeks out. So, let's go ahead, and we're getting close to the current era as of the recording of this, but we had a couple notable games that have come out since then. So, throughout the rest of April, we didn't really have anything huge. We had like Sayonara Wild Hearts, a couple Arcade Archives games, but going into May, we had a pretty big third-party release that surprised me in Mixtape. That kind of came out of nowhere for me. A lot of people love it. I think the presentation is amazing on Switch 2. Just looks really good. Whether that game is for you or not is something you can decide on your own.
I think a lot of people have to decide for themselves. I've seen a lot of discourse where it's just sort of following what people have said to, like, how many people have actually played as the thing. I had a good time. I thought it was visually delightful. It's not like a game of the year or anything. I wouldn't give it a 10, but I had a nice time with it. I think that's about as far as it goes.
I agree with you. It's a cool story, great music. For me, it's a solid 8. It's a game that was thoroughly enjoyable, but nothing that is going to stand up against, bigger games this year for me. Another game that I found thoroughly enjoyable, and that I picked up because it was the only true physical release of the game, Indiana Jones.
Yes. I love
Indiana Jones. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's amazing on Switch 2. Like, this is a game where if you're not looking for the compromises, you're not finding them. And it's Troy Baker does an amazing job, like a ridiculously amazing job sounding like Harrison Ford. Mm-hmm. And it's just wild to me that this game on Switch 2 looks the way it does, considering it's a Series X game.
Yeah, well, it's also a very nice handheld game because obviously you've got that story, which you might want to be docked for because it's very cinematic. But every level is also its own sandbox with a lot of side quests. And so it's nice just to be able to chip away at those like whenever you want. I had a great time playing through Indy. It's halved to 30 FPS. That's the biggest compromise. But visually, it still looks really, really good.
Yeah, I think that it's one of these games where, even in the side-by-sides I've seen, I've just been, okay, 30 FPS, if you're happy with that, the rest of this game looks so close that you're really not going to, you're not going to notice the difference for the vast majority of players outside of that frame rate drop. So I would say this is one that I wholeheartily recommend you pick up on Switch 2, because if you have a Switch 2 and you put this in your console, you're going to be like, wow. This is ridiculous how nice this looks.
I know Genki cards cause like a big ruckus on the Switch too, but that kind of thing has been around for a while, and Indie on every other platform is essentially a Genki card. You put that disc in, and it doesn't install the game, it downloads the game. Same is true for a bunch of Ubisoft games. Assassin's Creed Shadows on the disc on PS5, that downloads it. They're doing it with Rayman on PS5. That's a Genki card. Same with the Switch 2 version of Rayman, but with Indie, like it's all legitimately on the cartridge, unlike any other version, which feels really weird, but it's cool.
Yeah, it is very strange to have that be, a third party's, another platform holder's first party title coming to Switch 2, and that being where they put it physically on the media is just so bizarre. Like, I got the Starfield Collector's Edition, and that didn't come with a physical game. So it's just very interesting to see where Microsoft puts their priority. But I'm happy to have it. It's just a novelty to have that game, and I will say this, there's something really cool about having a visually impressive Switch 2 game that is also contained fully on the cartridge. Like, you just hold this little SD card looking thing and you're like, wow, there is a full on current gen game in here. And it's impressive in a way that a Blu-ray disc, for whatever reason, just isn't.
Yeah, and we blew over them earlier, but Bethesda have brought like everything to Switch 2. Skyrim's got a 60 FPS Switch 2 version now. Fallout 4's got a 60 FPS Switch 2 version now. Oblivion Remastered is coming in a few months, which that struggles on PS5. I don't know how they're going to pull that one off, but cool.
I'm very interested. Yeah, it seems strange to me, like. Bethesda seems to be supporting the Switch 2 wholeheartedly, which is cool. And to be fair, they were a good supporter of the Switch 1 in the pre-Xbox days, right? So it's not entirely surprising to see it, but it is cool that we're getting kind of all these games that could maybe get a second life on Switch. Really excited to see this stuff. As we move through April, let's see, what did we have? I'm looking at my list here. Past Indiana Jones, we did have. We're in May. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Just a couple days actually, like a week and some change. We had a couple notable releases. I think one for each of us in this list. We had Yoshi and the Mysterious Book from Nintendo. We had Bubsy 4D, which John, you consulted on. And then Daniel, we had Tales of Arise Beyond the Dawn Edition, which came out on May 22nd. I'm just going to say one quick word about Yoshi. It's a game. It's like like an interesting game that's not going to hit for everyone. I wanted to do a video on this game, but I'm not through it. And the reason why, because it's a short game. Let's be real clear. It takes no time to get through. I haven't gotten through it because I've been using it as like a palate cleanser, as like a a heart rate lowerer after I'm done playing something else. So like I'll play like a few matches of Street Fighter, and if I feel myself getting heated because I'm on like a cold streak, I will just I'll just go play Yoshi and chill out. And I think it's good for that. I would be absolutely shocked if this made anyone's Game of the Year list. I just don't think it's getting there.
I'll try it eventually. It's just a game I don't need right now.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people talking about how either they're not really gelling with it or they're fascinated by how many things they can do in the game. And it's just very divisive, it seems like. I don't know if I'll try it anytime soon, but I'm just observing everybody else kind of having their own mixed opinions on it from afar.
I just want good feel to do something else again. Like I know that they did Bakaru. I really enjoyed that. But after Woolly World and Crafted World and now the Flippin' Book, I'd rather they just like they do like Wario Land again, because the Shake Dimension was cool. Just get off Yoshi for a while.
Yeah, I feel like they're Nintendo's Bungie. Like they're like, you make one type of game and we're gonna have you make it forever. Yeah. But let's shift gears to Bubsy. I'm just gonna be blunt. I don't like this game. I played this game. I'm angry at how much I dislike it. But I feel like, John, you kind of to some capacity worked on this game. So I feel like you and I are probably going to disagree on this. What is your take on Bubsy?
Well, I don't know how much I can say, really. I was quite close with the dev team. I did a bunch of testing during development. I think it's the kind of game where you have to take the IP at its surface value, where Bubsy has always been in the gutters, and so they've got an opportunity to make something quite fun here. And I think that the core moveset is quite fun. I think Demon Tides probably achieves a lot more than Bubsy does, but it had a lot more time in the oven than Bubsy, and is also bigger scope. But they worked with what they had, and I think they delivered something that was pretty fun. I also like how expressive the movement is, so you can just bypass a lot of the levels by stringing all those moves together. But yeah, I think it's a decent. It's about as good as Bubsy can get.
That is a very diplomatic answer. Yeah. I feel like, and to be clear, to not just say, oh, I don't like it, to explain to those of you that haven't played it, I feel like Bubsy is just a bit too floaty. Like the jumping and platform mechanics just don't feel right. They feel like very risk averse. Like I never feel like I'm in danger of failing, because I think you can chain all those moves together and it is very effective, but maybe a bit too effective. Like Bubsy feels, instead like he drops with a natural arc to a jump, it feels like he floats, and he feels very, very floaty. And I feel like that is to the game's detriment. But like you said, John, that's no shade to the developers, because even I know that they had an exceptionally low amount of time to make that game compared to what you would want. Ideally, if you were starting a project from scratch, and they've proven they can do far better with Demon Tides, like you said.
It has been interesting watching speedrunners, because they have pulled off some ridiculous runs, and I've seen a few people say it's their favorite game. So
Wow.
maybe some Bubsy 4Ds in Game of the Year from a few people. Who knows?
That is going to be interesting. I will say it's very speedrun focused, and it is at its best when you're actively trying to speedrun it. But that's just not who I am.
Yeah, we were fairly optimistic on it. I think we were when we played it at a show floor once.
Yep.
But we had the same criticism, was just like it's very floaty. Hopefully they'll kind of like tighten that up by release, and it apparently it still plays the same way. So that just won't be in some people's favor. But it's great to hear the speedrun community has gravitated towards it.
But Demon Tides is coming to Switch this year, so that's cool.
Yeah, I'll play that. But Daniel, tell me, did you pick up Tales of Arise? I mean, you're probably the biggest Tales fan I've ever heard of. So, is this was this your game?
According to YouTube, there are a lot of there's not very many of us out there. This one, it's so similar to the one that we played on PS5, that I played on PS5, that there isn't much of a need for people to pick this one up. I don't believe there is much of a need. Like, it has the Beyond the Dawn DLC that came with it. It was like 2 years after the game released. It had DLC, even though they said they weren't going to do DLC. It's fine. Like, it still plays fairly well. It looks great for being on the Switch 2. But this is apparently not part of the remastered project, because it's not. It's just a definitive edition of the game. For those who have not got a chance to play it on another console and can only play it now, I would just give it a try. If you enjoy the Tales series, this is a fun one to jump into. I feel like you played it a bit as well, Steve, when it first released. We talked about it a little bit.
Yes.
During that time. And I think it's fairly serviceable. It's probably not my favorite. It's probably like in the middle of my favorite Tales games. But I don't know. I think it kind of tries to lean a little bit too far to a Western audience taste and flavor than kind of staying to its roots, which doesn't always favor it in some ways. But yeah.
It's a nice one to have on the Switch too, though. Like, especially if it's your first time.
Yeah. If nothing else, I love the fact that we're getting so many Tales titles now available on Switch 2, and hopefully there's more to come with the remaster project continuing. So yeah.
I had this kind of middling feeling when they announced Dragon Quest XI-S for Switch 2, because obviously that's already a Switch game, and it's like it's not an upgrade. You got to buy it again, and like it's 60 FPS now. It's like even as a big Dragon Quest fan, it's like I don't need that.
That's what I was feeling.
Yeah.
I agree with you on Dragon Quest XI. I haven't finished Dragon Quest XI. I don't know that Switch 2 is going to be the place that I do it when I finally do. I'll probably just pick up my Switch 1 copy and play it there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I own Tales of Arise on Steam. I could see myself double dipping on Switch 2, like when there's a sale or something. Like if they do a holiday sale this year, Target here in the States tends to do like a buy two, get one on video games around November every year. So I might just have that be one of the ones I pick up then.
Trust me, Tales loves to go on sale. So you just got to wait a little bit and it will be on sale soon.
Let's see. So we've made it. We're at the modern era. There's just two really notable games that we haven't discussed. And those are going to be both third party in Mina the Hollower and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And wouldn't you know it, we have videos about both of those games up on the channel right now. But I think I'm the only one that's in both of those videos. So I'd rather have either of you. Oh, well, Daniel, I know you played Mina. John, I don't know if you did or not.
I've purchased it. Have I played it? Nah.
It's a mood.
Yeah, it certainly is. I'm gonna round table the same question because again, I know I have Rebirth. Have either of you? To be clear, as of the recording of this, Rebirth has been out for a grand total of like 12 hours. So, have either of you picked it up? Did you need to get this day one?
That's another one where like I don't need it day one. But we played the first two chapters in the demo, so I've experienced the game at least. But yeah, that's one that will wait a little while.
Yeah. I've played it fully through on PS5 at release, and so I was interested in testing out to see what the visuals look like with the demo, and that's as much experience as I've also have with the game right now on Switch 2.
And it is impressive. Like it's clearly compromised. When you get to the open world, especially in the handheld mode, like there's one point where you're in like the Chocobo stable and the shadows look a bit funky, but considering what they're doing though, it's still really impressive.
Yeah, I noticed in my playthrough, and for those of you that haven't watched our coverage on Rebirth, I got about halfway through before we published that, which I felt was fine because, again, I've played through the whole game on PlayStation. So content-wise, I know what I'm in for. I was really just hunting for performance. And while there are some areas that weirdly have performance dips and issues, largely the game... I'd say after your first few hours, you just stop thinking about it and you're just kind of playing Rebirth. And it is an ideal handheld game. Like I wouldn't say put this on a 65-inch TV and peep every pixel. Like I would say just play it casually and you'll have a really fun time. If Switch 2 is the only platform you have, Rebirth is great to play on there. But if you have access to like a PS5 or a reasonably spec'd PC or an Xbox Series X, because I think Series S, that's going to be a wash. But if you have access to any of the higher end consoles or a decent gaming PC, just play it there, and you'll get the best visual version of it. But Rebirth is on Switch 2, the best portable version, because every other portable is like $1,000. So I think you're gonna have fun with that. But that's where games are at right now on Switch 2. There's loads. There's a huge amount of these. So I wanted to close out this episode reflecting on the first year of the Switch 2 by reevaluating the console's value proposition. I think I rated the console a 9 when it released a year ago. And I'm going to go crazy here and say that given the changes in the landscape, the pricing changes with competition, and the lineup that we now have, I would push this up to a 10. I think that the Switch 2 in the current landscape is absolutely a 10 out of 10 console.
What's Steam Deck? What does that cost now?
Steam Deck OLED,
a lot more,
which starts at $550 for the cheapest version and goes all the way up to I think $970 for the 1 terabyte model.
Right. And PS5 Pro's $900, right?
PS5 Pro is $900. Series X, I think, is $800 or somewhere there, about $740 or $800.
God.
And Switch 2 is going to be $550, I believe.
It's 500, right? Because it was $450 without, or am I thinking of pounds?
No, I think you're right. It was $450.
Let's Google. Let's fact check this.
Yeah, I need to fact check that. I should know the price of it.
It was $500 with the Mario Kart bundle. That's what I remember.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So the Mario Kart's no longer bundled. So it was $450 without Mario, and it's going to $500 without Mario.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And considering everything else, it is good value, which sounds crazy for $1,000, but you get a lot out of this, don't you? Not just from the current library, but also just, I don't think you can quite overstate how transformative it is for the Switch 1 library. I've played a lot of Switch 1 games on this thing. In the first few months, more than Switch 2 games. I played through the GTA trilogy on Switch 2 because it performs better and looks better in handheld mode with the boost. I played through Harvestella on the Switch 2. All those free update games like Mario Odyssey and Echoes of Wisdom and Bowser's Fury, they are transformative. You get so much out of there, especially with things you already have. Like you can not buy a Switch 2 game and you can have a lot of value in there with just Switch 1 games or versions like Fortnite and Apex, which are actually really good on the Switch 2. So in terms of value, it's hard to put a number on, but it is, in this first year alone, I think it is the best on the market.
Yeah, it's just amazing value for what we have right now. And especially, as you mentioned, just prices going up everywhere. Funny how now at this point, I think Nintendo's handled it the best. Like they're giving you a warning months in advance that they're going to increase this price, and the prices increase is very minimal compared to other competitors. It's crazy.
Yeah. And also NSO. I think this doesn't really get talked about enough. You get games like Street Fighter, which play the same. You don't really get any online shortcomings, and it's the cheapest by a lot. I'm in the expansion family plan, and I think I pay £6 or £7 every year. That's the total for a year, because I'm splitting it with like 8 people. But you can do that. You can make online so cheap. And even if you don't do that, just base online, it's still vastly cheaper than PSN and Game Pass. So it's, and you get all those on retro games as well. Like it's gotten to a point where NSO is actually really good value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even outside of NSO, and I know that Nintendo got a lot of heat for this when they first announced it, and it's not specifically a Switch 2 feature, but I have gotten so much mileage out of virtual game cards that it's kind of crazy, to be honest. I get that it blocked off like the previous kind of sharing workaround that they themselves had advised people to do. But if you had more than one person in your family you wanted to share games with, that never would have worked in the first place, which is the situation I'm in, because I have, my wife and my 2 children, all of whom on occasion want to borrow a game from me. And the fact that I could loan out my digital games to anyone in my family and let them use them for 2 weeks has been a huge game changer for me, because it has saved me, no joke, hundreds of dollars. Because I used to go out and buy like multiple copies of the same game so that other members of my family could play them, without having to have them use my Switch to do it. And now I just buy the one copy and I put it in someone's library, and when they're done, they just share it to whoever else wants to play. And that has been a massive savings for me.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing about Switch 2 holding it back for a lot of people is probably still game key cards. You can't talk about them without people going nuts. And I don't like them, but they've had a good knock-on effect where collectors don't want them, and so the prices fall really fast, and you can get a lot of like really cheap game key cards. But even the brand new ones, like Rayman Legends, is £35 brand new, includes the Origins download as well. It's like that would not have been £35 if that was a regular game card. So I don't like game key cards, but in terms of expenses, they could be a lot worse.
Yeah, I even here in the States, like if you go into a GameStop and you see a game that's a game key card, it's traditionally quite a bit cheaper than a full-on physical game, because they know that people don't really want them. So it's if you're fiscally minded, you can find some pretty great deals just by looking for those, because people turn their nose up at them. And I get it. I totally understand the sentiment, and I agree with it to a large extent, but it's hard to pass up a game for like $15, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that's going to wrap us up. I think the Switch 2 1 year in is doing very well. I'm very happy with my purchase. I don't regret much of it except for you, Switch webcam. I'm looking right at you as I say this.
You won't be saying that when there's a Falco on your face, though, will you?
That's true. When honestly, that may be the thing that gets me to reconnect it. None of my Switch 2 webcams are connected. All three of them are just kind of sitting off of the shelf gathering dust. That may be the thing that gets me to actually hook it up to a Switch 2 dock and leave.
What if in the Ocarina of Time remake it maps your face to Navi, and like you've got a floating like little circle floating around Link all the time with your face?
That's how they're gonna sell. That's how they're gonna recontextualize that game.
That's the killer app for the webcam. You know what it should do? It should just map one of your friends, like without them telling you who it is. Just break into their webcam.
No, you have to like do a game share so that other person who's sharing it, their cam is being captured, and they're your fairy companion throughout your journey.
Exactly. There we go.
What, do you guys? And I hate. There's a disturbing amount of photos of me that people have taken over the years of me playing games, like candid shots of me playing. I have the most dead face in the world when I'm focused on a game. Do you guys have like a ugly gaming face? Is that a thing?
I'm just angry all the time.
Yeah, it's just no expression. It's just
I'm just
There's
sitting
no soul
there
in
like
here.
it's like my whole face drops. Like I'm not enjoying what I'm doing at all. If you looked at me playing a game, you'd be like, this man hates video games.
It has to be a game like there's like something intense happening in, I don't know, Clair Obscure. My face is just stone, but inside I have all the feels happening. I don't know. That's just how I function.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one. That's a great way to leave it. But could you imagine like if it just captured your face as you were gaming and you weren't thinking about it? So Navi's just floating around and you've got with this stoic expression. Navi's got a beard, you know? just like be like, damn, Navi, you're so ugly. And then you just realize it's you.
Barry's like, it took you that long to solve it, huh?
Can't believe you, loser.
Now, they should listen to us more. Like, imagine going to the fairy fountain and the great fairy's just got your face.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
They should listen to us all the time.
You know, I feel like, and I wish that we had access to Nintendo to ask that. I feel like it's virtually a guarantee that at some point in development, someone did that to someone else. Like they were working on Ocarina of Time, and they're like, you know what? Let's just piss Miyamoto off today. Let's put his face on something, and you know, he's testing a build, and he pans the camera around, and it's just him.
He's the great Deku tree.
They're doing that right now, you know, especially with how is this Great Fairy going to look like in a remake? Like they're doing some crazy things with Miyamoto's face on there. Yeah.
It's just Miyamoto. Every Miyamoto mode. Mia mode. I missed an opportunity there for a dad joke. I'm mad at myself now. Anyway, that's where we're going to end it. The Switch 2 first year, every future game is going to have Miyamoto's face on everything. It's confirmed. You heard it here first. Thank you all so much for watching, listening, however you interact with this. If you would like to have listened to this a day before it came out, you could have been on our Patreon. Patreon.com/GVGaming is where you can find out how to get each and every episode of The Week in Nintendo a day early and listen to our live discussions as we record them. You would have known about that DS and Wii video that I talked about earlier. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. I hope you're happy, safe, and healthy wherever you are. We are off to SGF next week, so I can't tell you what the next week in Nintendo will be until I'm back, because I don't know what I'm going to see to talk about over there. But we'll have plenty of coverage from the show and all kinds of other stuff going on the channel in the meantime. We'll see you next week. Until then, bye, everyone.
They just announced Elden Ring for August 28th, by the way. Bye.
Oh, what?
Till we meet again. Bye.
That's how I'm ending the episode.
Okay.
I'm leaving that in
It's
there.
fine.